A very chilly Sunday afternoon here at Broadcast House this Mother's Day, the 8th day of May 2022. Welcome to the weekly roundup edition, the bulletin that brings you those stories that made headlines within the week. So we're going to be having news for an hour, so sit tight. Now to start off, the Prime Minister Robert Nabanja this week asked students to always complete their studies in preparation for a better future. The Premier was officiating the 17th graduation ceremony at Uganda Matters University. These were the highlights.
Prime Minister Robert Nabanja Musafiri says government is committed to establish more programs aimed at poverty alleviation, and he advised those who completed their studies to support these programs as they wait for white-collar jobs.
Developing the human resource capital of our country, the human resource base of this country, and we are very grateful. The NRM government liberalized the university education to allow private actors like the faith-based foundations to come in, because we realized that the public universities could not absorb all the students.
This was during the 27th graduation ceremony of Uganda Matters University in Kozi, where over 1,500 candidates were awarded PhDs, masters, bachelors, diplomas and certificates. However, Susan Alum, who completed her PhD, died in the bus accident, traveling from Fort Portal for the graduation. The function that was started with a colorful mass, led by the Archbishop of Kampala, Paul Semogeli, the Chancellor of the University, Joseph Anthony Zua. Nabanja was elected as head of mobilization in Kozi University. The Bishop of Chinda and Chairman Episcopal Conference, Joseph Anthony Zua, congratulated those who graduated, however encouraged them to use their professionalism to be exemplary and innovative to develop socially and economically.
I urge you, the staff and the students, when flexibly and creatively adhering to change, do not violate the ethical principles which Uganda Matters University has generously guarded since its inception.
The Archbishop of Kampala, Paul Semogeli, commended the government for the conducive environment that has enabled private universities to begin. However, he appealed to the graduates to be patriotic to their country and also to be transparent and trustworthy.
So that you can go and work. You spend most of your life on time at work. Avoid criminal activities. Work hard. And trust in God and pray.
Ivan Juko, Frederick Kasvante, UBC News.
Yes, the 17th graduation of Uganda Matters University. Now, the Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, this week appealed to parents, local governments and school administrators to ensure that children leave school at 5 in the evening and report to school at 7 in the morning. Janet Museveni was addressing the media on child care while at school. These were the details.
Schools open for second term on 9th May 2022 for learners in pre-primary, primary and secondary levels. According to the Ministry of Education and Sports, some schools closed earlier before completion of the 14 weeks of the school calendar, which will affect the learners catch up with the school curriculum.
This is disadvantaging the learners concerned since they won't be able to cover the required curriculum content. So I hope that the schools that closed before time at least made some arrangements for the children to finish their work that they were supposed to finish in the 14 weeks.
As schools prepare to start, Ministry of Education and Sports cites a problem of schools hiking fees in the disguise of costs of requirements going up. The ministry says, despite giving guidelines and issuing circulars, the culture of setting high fees by schools has not changed. The Ministry of Education and Sports is to start consultations on the statutory instrument for regulating fees they have drafted, and if the processes of government are done, this document will be able to give guidelines that must be followed by school heads.
That in this season, people should not be doing infrastructure development, for instance, in schools, or buying equipment that is expensive, or transport, or that would require schools to hike the school fees.
The Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, has also expressed concern over the time schools release children after classes, emphasizing that day schools have kept learners beyond 8 p.m. and children are picked at 4:30 a.m. and dropped at school before 7 a.m. She has tasked the Education Policy Review Commission to critically study this matter and see what further policy interventions government needs to make in this regard.
Putting them at risk for sending them home late, and we expect them at school early, and it's dangerous for these children. I want to appeal to local governments, to head teachers, and to parents to really look into this matter to ensure that children are not on the road after 5.
On the seed secondary schools constructed in different sub-counties across the country, Janet emphasized that they are day schools and there are no dormitories, so parents should take responsibility to accommodate and feed their children. She also urged them to monitor and have interest in these government projects.
Fencing of these schools and to plant trees, and we will follow up and hold competitions for schools to see which schools are really now doing what the ministry guides them to do. Because we don't want animals coming into the school compounds to feed and to run around when schools are going on. We want hedges around schools.
Meanwhile, on the issue of schools that want to increase school fees, the minister has advised them to follow the guideline of applying to the permanent secretary of the ministry and present their reasons for the increase. I'm Nafka Farida and Abdul Nasir Wama in Kampala.
Now, the Prime Minister Robina Nabanja this week asked students to always complete their The Muslim community in Uganda early this week celebrated Eid Day. The Prime Minister Robina Nabanja challenged them to embrace unity for peaceful coexistence and development. She was the chief guest during the Eid Day celebrations at Old Kampala Mosque, which is also headquartering the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. Henry Okrut reports.
As early as 6 a.m., Muslims were already here at Old Kampala Mosque to celebrate Eid. Prayers were led by the Mufti of the Republic of Uganda, Sheikh Shaban Ramadan Muwajje. Behind this prayer was a message of peace, not only in Uganda, but across the world.
As we celebrate Eid al-Fitr today, we pray for all our brothers and sisters in hardship situations such as wars and those in prisons. You have heard our brother, the ambassador of Libya. We have to pray for our people, brothers and sisters in Libya. They have not settled yet.
Emphasizing the gospel of unity, Mubaje called for peaceful coexistence.
As Muslims, as Ugandans, our strength and dignity is achieved and preserved when we are united. On this note, therefore, I call upon all Muslims to come together, embrace and consolidate the unity we have so far achieved by Uganda Muslim Supreme Council.
It is this similar message that Prime Minister Robin Anabanja carried on behalf of government.
Bwe tuba tuli mu kisiibo wabaawo obumu, wabaawo emirembe, wabaawo okwagaliza, wabaawo buli kimu, naye ekisiibo oluggwa ng'abantu abamu babivaako. Tusaba nga bwe tubadde mu kisiibo, bwe tuba tubeera olwaleero n'enkya na luli.
Reacting to concerns by some Muslims over her recent visit to the Kibuli Muslim sect, Nabanja affirmed government openness to all Ugandans, including Muslims.
Abantu bali willing okubeera kintu kimu. Ne right honorable ekintu ekyewuunyisa kwe kubeera nti ate mu gavumenti mwe muli ate abawugira enjawukana. Omuntu aba yeeyawudde ate bamuwa ebirabo, ne bamusuusuuta, ne bamuwa, ne bamukuza, n'olwekyo ogenda okulaba ng'omuntu agamba nange bammanyi wendi. N'olwekyo okwegatta tekujja kubeerawo nga ffenna tekukkiriza nti obukulembeze bubeere mu Uganda Muslim Supreme Council.
Naye njagala mutegeere nti gavumenti yaffe ya NRM eyagaliza buli muntu, waliwo kye bayita freedom of worship. Kakati nze bwe baba bampisa eri, nze bannange simanyi oba nakola musango. Bwe mba nakola omusango nja kusaba ala nsonyiwe. Naye nga ffe bannayuganda bonna we bali we twagala tubasange.
Nabanja also seized the moment to explain rising commodity prices, urging Ugandans to adjust on their lifestyles.
Amawanga gonna gaggulawo lumu. Bwe gaggulawo lumu, mukimanyi bulungi nti wano mu Uganda ebintu bye tukozesa okukola buto ne sabbuuni mu kampuni ze tulina oba factories ebisinga tubijja bweru. Tubijja Indonesia ne Malaysia. Kakati olw'okuba tubijja bweru, Ukraine bwe yatandika okulwana juzi, aba Malaysia ne basalawo ebintu byabwe okubikolesaamu amafuta. Mu buto osobola okukolamu amafuta. Bo ne basalawo okukola factories ez'amafuta basobole okwetaasa kubanga amafuta agasinga gava mu mawanga ago.
The Prime Minister's appearance as a chief guest at Old Kampala Mosque comes a few weeks after a similar visit to the Kibuli Muslim headquarters. This could be another phase towards brokering a truce between the two warring Muslim factions. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Now, the Inspectorate of Government this week also handed over 2 trucks to the Ministry of Health that were impounded from one of the ministry's staff. This Inspectorate of Government urged the public to come up with and report cases of public property abuse since they have protection under the Whistleblowers Act of 2010. These are the details.
James Tukahira, a transport officer at the Ministry of Health, is alleged to have misused the ministry's motor vehicles registration number UG6495M Hino box body and UG6646M Tata lorry that were meant for the support of COVID-19 response.
We have this case of Mr. James Tukahira, Senior Assistant Secretary, Stock Transport Officer, Ministry of Health again, found in abuse of public property, misuse of government vehicles meant for COVID-19 pandemic activities for carrying out his personal construction works. The message from the Inspectorate of Government to the public: the Inspectorate of Government would therefore wish to thank the whistleblowers for their vigilance in reporting the abuse of government properties. Such whistleblowers should be rewarded for taking a step forward to report such cases.
The trucks were found to be ferrying building materials including iron bars, cement, nails, among others.
As a ministry, ours is only to pledge that we are going to strengthen the internal controls to ensure that such kind of misdeeds, do not happen. But of course, as you know, I normally hear the police saying that we cannot be everywhere. Also, as an institution, we are a broad sector as a ministry. We have, our presence virtually everywhere in the entire country. So apart from, helping people to appreciate on the right thing to do, we cannot enforce on every aspect.
James Tukahirwa was arraigned before the Leadership Court Tribunal to answer charges of abuse of public property, contrary to Section 12B of the Leadership Code Act 2002.
To boost the inspectorate efforts in this fight, the public is hereby called upon to report government officials who misuse public properties, motor vehicles, to the Inspectorate of Government for investigations.
The Inspectorate of Government commended vigilant members of the public for owning the war against corruption and reporting cases of abuse of government programs.
The strongest is the one who comes out and say, I'm sorry I did this. You get me? And that's it. That's all I can say.
Were you aware that you were doing something?
No, because it was a welfare policy in the ministry to help staff. But as it came out, when they said, oh, you are doing wrong, I said, I'm sorry.
This is the third incident where the Inspectorate of Government has handled cases regarding the misuse and abuse of public property. Sudat Kaye, UBC News.
Now, government through the Ministry of Works and Transport seeks to introduce speed governors to monitor motorist speed on the road. Now, the State Minister for Transport, Fred Biamukama, says that this will manage the road accidents.
The introduction of speed governors follows a recent accident at Sebitoli along Fort Portal Kampala Highway that claimed 21 lives. The cause of the accident is not established, but many attribute it to the nature of the road, something the Minister for Transport refutes.
Some of our roads are not marked, and those which are not marked, sometimes drivers get confused.
Our roads are standard. They are the same compared to other countries. And I wouldn't say driver giving an excuse that we are getting accidents because the road is narrow, the road has potholes.
According to Minister Biabakama, government is still studying the situation to give the final report on the accident, but also set measures to minimize on the road accidents.
We will go on a number of things, not only inspecting the buses, but also meeting and testing the drivers, checking if there are other issues in the company. There are a lot of things we're going to look at.
Among the measures is the introduction of speed governors to replace the previous ones.
But we're working with National Bureau of Standards to see that we have something which is called time limits.
He attributed the speed governor failure to ungazetted centers to get them, political interference, and lack of experts to monitor and control them.
We had challenges from the political wing, most of the politicians, like we members of parliament. We are fighting these speed governors, the real drivers, everyone almost. And the excuse they are giving, the speed governors are spoiling engines of vehicles.
The minister says the speed governors can be monitored by anyone from anywhere.
It can tell someone is on this place, someone has just passed here, you Sunday so you do not stop on the traffic lights. So I want to bring something similar to that. We see how we can cooperate with the Ugandans, reduce the number of accidents.
The spokesperson for Porto Taxi Drivers Association, Mugume Bob, wants government to connect accidents to the entire transport chain from the driver's health to the road, the vehicle, and the parties concerned on road safety.
The driver is suffering from diabetes or high blood pressure. When he's seated on the steering, anything can happen. It has no time. You find the accident has happened.
He asks government to take road signs as a priority to guide drivers' conduct on the road.
All the signposts have been stolen and have been taken by these scrap dealers and are known. Some of them are arrested, they are there. So a driver who has just moved on the road as a new person, these road signs, that's what we call communication. Communication between the driver and the road.
Also, border riders say accidents can be minimized if all road users respect each other.
Tusaba traffic officers baterera abantu abo baturespectinga into abanya Uganda kandi batukwate ngabanya Uganda.
The National Vice Chairman NRM Party, Alhaji Moses Chigongo, this week urged NRM leaders to respect the electorate, especially when addressing them about the parish development model. Alhaji Chigongo was speaking to the members of the National Women League and Executive Council at the NRM Secretariat in Kampala.
The language which you are using matters a lot. It can destroy the movement if you are not careful. It can destroy the movement. So for leaders, first measure the words you are going to say. And when you are talking to them, you are the leader, you lead them carefully. Listen to them. Leaders always have a job of listening before you say something. A lot of things have changed. But for you leaders, don't be too greedy. Greed can cause us problems. If you are in a position, don't fight for another position. You can't hold 5 positions at a go. You can't. And the movement is very big. There are so many jobs. You will get another job. But you don't have to die because you have not been given this or that. No, 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 no.
We the leaders, you and me, have a role to play. I want first of all to thank the President of the Republic of Uganda for the following reasons. When you look at cabinet, we are almost 38%. The Vice President is a woman. The Prime Minister is a woman. The second Deputy Prime Minister is a woman. The third Deputy Prime Minister present here is a woman. And the ministers present here, please stand up for recognition. Signifies that we are almost there. So let everybody go down there, mobilize those people that you think are able. But basically these women wanted another term, another chance, I was told.
We are all aware that the parish development model is our flagship program as a party. The Myoga program and so many other programs. When we hear the masses complaining in one way or the other, then we must ask ourselves the question, what is the problem? Is it that we don't monitor the services? What is the challenge? We want to be in power and we want to stay in power. But staying in power means ensuring services reach our people.
Government this week announced that the resumption of Facebook in Uganda is underway. Kabyanga was officiating at this year's media dialogue organized by the Media UN Human Rights Players, Uganda Human Rights Commission, and attended by the Fourth Estate. This was part of this year's commemoration of International World Press Freedom Day, held on every 3rd of May.
Media practitioners in Uganda have joined the rest of the world in commemorating the World Press Freedom Day. The day carried on the theme, Journalism Under Digital Siege, converges policymakers, journalists, media representatives, activists, cybersecurity managers and legal experts to explore issues and develop concrete solutions to address the threats posed by increased surveillance to press freedom and privacy.
There are many of them doing a great job in Uganda. Unfortunately, there are others, either because of lack of capacity or because of negative influence, are not doing well. And we are ready to contribute to building the capacity and sensitize these journalists or media houses.
In Kampala City, United Human Rights, in partnership with the Uganda Human Rights Commission, have organized a one-day media dialogue.
The doctor here has brought very, very pertinent issues. which we need to capture early enough.
The discussion centered on the limited and volatile space of operation for the media industry.
And I recall the exercise whereby journalists were smashed, were brutalized in front of my office. And I remember that when we reached out to government, immediate action was taken and some of the security operatives responsible for those violations were punished.
Mariam Wagadia is the chairperson of Uganda Human Rights Commission.
This job has certain parameters. As you impart, as you gather the information, as you communicate, there are a few limitations that go with your work, including the duty of care to communicate that which is factual.
But the Uganda police and sister security agencies still top major reports as #1 violators of journalists' rights and freedom.
The IGP has come out to reiterate his very strong signal that any attacks on journalists are acceptable and must not go unpunished. And is reminded all commanders to act quickly to protect journalists and in addition initiate prompt, thorough and transparent investigations and ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice.
The continued government clampdown on Facebook services was also raised as a setback towards media freedom in Uganda.
Don't abuse government. Even we in government get annoyed. You know, you think you are the only ones who get annoyed. Even we in government are human beings like you. We do what? We get annoyed. So don't abuse me on Facebook. And yet you know I have the authority to disorganize.
State Minister for ICT in charge of national guidance, Godfrey Kabyanga, says plans to resume the platform are underway.
But right now we are completing negotiations on how we should operate, Facebook and us as a nation. And we have agreed on most of the terms. Very soon, I don't think it has a lot of days, so that we open Facebook and then you can enjoy it, but enjoy it responsibly.
To streamline the operations of the media industry in Uganda, will constitute a communication tribunal and shut down media houses that breach the country's laws. Robert Onyango, UBC News.
The Katikkiro of Buganda, Charles Peter Mayiga, this week delivered a keynote speech at Nsibirwa Annual Public Lecture at Makerere University. The Katikkiro highlighted the role of Buganda Kingdom in the development of the country's education sector.
Makerere University has organized the Nsibirwa Annual Public Lecture in remembrance of his effort in acquisition of university land. This as the institution prepares to mark 100 years of its existence. Towards 10 a.m., Katikkiro of Buganda, Charles Peter Mayiga, arrived and first planted a tree at Sekabaka Mutesa Museum. Katikkiro Mayiga implored culture institutions to always pay attention to the quality of people they train to avoid producing watered-down leaders.
We are here in large part because of the wisdom, determination, and foresightedness of great men and women such as Martin Luther and Nsibirwa, and it is fitting that we should celebrate them.
The chairperson of the University Council appreciated the late Nsibirwa for his efforts in ensuring Makerere gets land for expansion.
They acquired land for staff housing estates in Kololo, Katalemwa, Makindye, Makerere North, and Waise. Such was the foresightedness of men and women like Owech Martin Luther Nsibirwa.
And I wish to report that the reconstruction of our iconic building has commenced.
The daughter to the late Nsibirwa narrated circumstances her father went through after Buganda donated land to the university.
Nsibirwa being this, believing this to be in the best interest of the country, finally signed the clause on the 4th of September 1945, and he was assassinated on the morning of the 5th September near Namirembe Cathedral steps as he went for morning service. Nsibirwa lost his life, but Makerere College gained a university status sooner than it could have been before he gave his life.
The event was organized under the theme Revisiting the Life of the Late Katikiro Martin Ruther Nsibirwa in the Lenses of Makerere at 100. Marian Womcha and Andrew Sebira, UBC News.
The National Resistance Movement Secretary General Richard Tudwong this week urged local government leaders and district chairpersons to implement the NRM manifesto ahead of the 2026 presidential elections. Tudwong was addressing an induction retreat of district chairpersons from Bunyoro, Rwenzori and Chigezi sub-regions at the National Leadership Institute in Chankwanzi.
The Secretary General NRM Party Richard Tudwong wants district leaders to know what the NRM manifesto entails.
At times I feel embarrassed. I go with the president for campaign, he stands on the podium and says, there is free UPE. Then you hear people shouting, no, we are paying. And when you start digging deeper, you know that the capitation grant that is sent to schools at times is not enough. Urban schools, I was in Sironko, I found a primary school, one stream alone, one class had about 3 streams. And they didn't have enough space to put children. The school is oversubscribed, especially after the lockdown. I think people were overproducing during the lockdown. All the schools are flooded with the children.
During the induction retreat on manifesto implementation for the district leaders from Ankole, Bunyoro, Rwenzori and Chigezi sub-region, Tudwong said it's time to fulfill promises made to the electorate.
Every failed government project, there is a succeeding private project. Quote me on this, and I'm speaking with authority over this. Whether a road project has collapsed and failed, you follow those who are in charge directly. Somebody somewhere in the system, in the line, in the chain, is benefiting.
The senior presidential advisor in charge of economic and manifesto implementation, Professor Ephraim Kamuntu, urged leaders to mobilize the population against poverty.
If you are a member of the party in a multi-party political system, your song is the manifesto. To me, to be a member of a party and be independent of it is a contradiction in my judgment. How can you be a member of the party and then you are independent of it? Well, you have mentioned the problem of register, Vichimchi. But in every competition, so I can put a question. So when will all these problems be cured so that a member of parliament is a member of parliament of the party and is not independent because, the register went bad? Anyway.
The director of Manifesto Implementation Unit at the Office of the President, Willis Bashasha, says the induction meeting checks the readiness of implementing the NRM manifesto.
However, as a local government, we still face one challenge, that whatever we plan to make, to work on in the end of the financial years are facilitated by central government. But at the moment we are facing a challenge because you cannot talk about manifesto implementation when the budget, Minister of Finance keeps on slashing down budget allocation to the local government.
Sudat Kaye, UBC News.
In a rather unfortunate turn of events, scores of people were this week buried under the rubble by a collapsed structure in Ndeje Makinje Division. Police Fire Brigade managed to retrieve the injured with the help of the public. These are the details.
Thousands rushed to witness the collapse of a 4-storied building in Ndeje Chibutika, Machindye Sabagabo, where several people are believed to have lost lives and sustained injuries. Efforts to rescue the victims were rendered futile as the rescue team from police delayed to reach the scene. It was all emotions as some relatives of the victims rushed to the scene to check whether their loved ones were still alive. Among the victims was a pregnant woman who by the time of her rescue breathed her last. This was so emotional for the husband. Locals allege that the collapsed building had been constructed within a month and attributed the collapse to a weak foundation.
N'ekizimbe sipiriko kibadde kiddukira tebadde mu mateeka. Kizimbe kino kizimbiddwa mu mwezi gumu nga kyamyalire 3 okudda waggulu. Tusuubira okuba nti structural engineer oba municipal inspector yandibadde nga monitoring ekizimbe kyakola ku sipiriko kibadde kiddukira ne engineer yennyini ow'ekizimbe. Tugenze otunulira engwa gye kivuguddemu nti baakisembeza ne kivuga ne mu poloti yaakyo ne kingira poloti endala mu bbanga. Obuzito obubadde bunene nnyo busobodde okisika ne bukosa abantu abalala babadde batetegese gendera mu mbeera nga bwetyo. Naye ng'obuzibu tusinza okusangana bwobune nti obuyambi okuyada ne ku fire ne ku police headquarters tewali.
Locals tried to save the situation, but due to lack of enough machinery, they could hardly do anything. However, police, with the help of excavators, tried to rescue people trapped under the rubble. Despite the futile efforts, local leaders attributed the collapse of the building to use of unqualified engineers, low quality of cement and weak iron bars.
Kwe kubeera mbona abazimbe ebizimbe ba engineer tebakozesa bukugu bumala kuba otunulira ekizimbe kino ddala nawe ne bw'obeera lemani okiraba nga ddala sementi abadde munafu ali mu kizimbe ate ne laxist oba okubeerawo bulagajjavu oba obugayaavu mu balondoola ebizimbe nga bizimbibwa kuba ekizimbe nga bw'owulidde kizimbiddwa mu mwezi gumu naye mu mwezi gumu tujjemu maziga.
Structural inspectors and division engineers were also blamed for the collapse of the building. Sudat Kaye.
Quite unfortunate. In other news, government also injected 14 billion Ugandan shillings in Uganda Technical College, Lira, for infrastructural development of the institutions. Speaking during the on-spot visit to the site this week, State Minister for Sports Dennis Hamson Obua said that the investment is to turn the institution into a center of excellence on road construction. So Obua also monitored construction at the Lango College and noted that the ministry has a plan to rehabilitate all the traditional schools in the country.
Under Uganda Skills Development Project, Uganda Technical College Lira received 14 billion shillings. The initiative by Government of Uganda in partnership with the World Bank is to turn the institution into a center of excellence on road construction.
We are here, me in particular, together with the Permanent Secretary on behalf of the Senior Minister and the entire ministry, to do an on-spot assessment of how far these projects have gone.
The infrastructural development includes material testing laboratory, administration block, both girls and boys hostel, staff house and road equipment already delivered to the institution pending commissioning.
For UTC Lira, it is road construction. For UTC Elgon, it is something else. For UTC Bushenyi, it is something else. All the 5 have their specific areas of skilling Uganda in terms of providing specific skills.
The Deputy Principal UTC Lira, Elvis Bongo, explained that the equipment will also be used to maintain local government roads to generate revenue for its maintenance.
In a way that we shall be having trainers, but the city will give us the roads to work on. So in the process, I think we shall be generating some revenue. Not only the city, but also have local government that have challenges with this heavy equipment.
We appreciate.
After UTC Lira, Obua proceeded to check on the delayed works at Lao College. Here, 412 million was given to construct 5 classrooms and rehabilitation of Cohen Dormitory, one of the traditional dormitories with a bed capacity of 250.
The Ministry of Education and Sports, under the leadership of the First Lady, has a plan for all the traditional schools in Uganda. We are aware that schools like Lango College, among many others, are now in bad shape. So the moment this plan is funded, we will embark on the long journey of renovating these traditional schools.
The head teacher, Lao College Sami Bobokino, said the new curriculum requires a lot of space and when the classrooms are complete will facilitate proper learning. Lao College currently has 1,005 students in both O and A levels.
But I'm happy that the ministry has finally remembered us as a traditional school and they are now on the ground. So as you have seen, the minister has been here, the PS has been here, they have seen the status of the school, and I believe their coming will not be in vain.
So what is your time frame in the contract, although you were supposed to start in...
After engaging the contractor, Obua said most traditional schools are in very bad shape and once required funds are availed, the ministry will vigorously embark on rehabilitating the ramshackle traditional schools. Eddie Olwa, UBC News.
Now, 5 people were this week injured in Masanafu, Chinonya village following a night attack by machete-wielding robbers. The robbers were believed to have attacked 3 different homesteads before fleeing with money. Saddam Obale with a report.
Residents in Kinonya village, Masanafu in Rubaga division are living in fear following a night attack by machete-wielding robbers.
Twafunye obuzibu olunaku lwajjo bwe twalumbiddwa ababbi betutebereza okuba ab'ebijambiya kubanga batemye abantu bafa abawere ddala 5 era we twogerera bali mu mulago embeera mbi abaana bali abasatu bali mu lago omu ali awo ku ddwaliro lya Gateway
ali asura muno nze nsula muno zabadde ssaawa nga 9 netumuwulira ng'akaaba yascreaminze ng'obulumiroza bungi inga mundu omwo it was a struggle bw'olaba ebifaananyi oba bw'oyingiramu omusaayi gwonna guli ku bisenge kireka barwanyemuko.
It is believed that robbers jumped over the wall fence of one of the residents in the wee hours, smashed windows of their victims' houses before breaking in and badly injuring the occupants.
Twasanze akajji kali akageti nga kali open ne tuyingira. Twageze okutuuka wano ng'omulyango guno muggule. Okutuukamu ng'asikali yalimu omukube. Nenkubira chairman wange, chairman naye n'atutuukako wano ne tuddayo ne tuyita patrol ne mutwala mu ddwaliro.
Nga waliwo asikali era akubiddwa obubi ennyo era naye yagibbaawo n'addusibwa e Mulago mu ssaawa ze zimu. Era oluvannyuma twaze mu tufuna essimu endala nga waliwo mu maaso era meters ntini okuva wano nga waliwo omukyala abadde ku boda n'owa boda nabeera nga batemuddwa naye nga tebatemeddwa.
The robbers are believed to have attacked 3 different homesteads, injuring 5 people before taking money from them.
Choina. Chichoina boina sente zisuwe zonna zoina. Nakati nendekano balekanye ne bankuba akabaawo ku mukono. Ne batema ne bafulo ejambya ku mutwe.
This is another homestead where one of the victims was also robbed. Her glass doors were smashed before her phone and money were taken.
Bali ababbi we bawulidde nti tuleekanye ne bajja ne bayiwa endabirwamu yange. Naye obwedde omwalala ajja n'atemukuba brother enkozi abadde mu nnyumba ng'alimu ne brother. Wetemukuba brother wange ng'abagamba sirika tolekana. Twagala sente, olina sente, essimu eriwa.
Upon escaping, the robbers are believed to have met a boda and passenger who were also attacked, shattering the boda helmet to pieces and badly injuring the two.
Naye nga bwe bavuddeawo ne bagenda ne bakuba waliwo omusirikale akuuma ku mayumba agaddako naye ne bamukuba ne bamuyisa bubi ne bagenda ku kikomera ekiddako ne bayingira ne bamenya bo bagize kadirisa ak'oluggi badde tebakasibye ne bayisaamu omukono ne bayingira mulimu abawala 2 ne babatuukako abo babatutteko emitwalo 2 n'akasimu ak'amapeesa.
The chairperson of Kinonya village appealed to residents to be vigilant, encouraged landlords to register their new tenants, which will reduce criminality.
Naye abantu bonna be bayingiridde nga tekuliiko alina namba ya chairman, tekuliiko alina namba ya OC, tekuliiko alina namba ya defense. Kati twatuuse mu bikomera naye nga abamu babuuza n'obabuuza chairman wo yaani nga tebakumanyi nakumanyi. Ate nga abantu babeera mu nkiiko tebajja, abantu bapangisa tebabanjula.
All the victims were rushed to Mulago Hospital where they are nursing wounds. The deputy spokesperson, Kampala Metropolitan Police Luko Westjire, confirmed the incident and said police is still investigating the matter.
Efforts are on to trace these assailants and have them arrested on allegations of aggravated robbery. But we do call upon members of the public to work with the local authorities and also the police in their vicinity to see that they can safeguard themselves.
Sadat Mubale, UBC News, Kampala.
Very devastating news right there. Let's take a short commercial break and we'll be back with business news.
Pay for your dream phone, Mpola. Get your dream phone today for as low as 1,400 Uganda shillings with free data for a year and pay slowly. All phones come with daily 50 MBs for 12 months. Repayment period is 1 year. Available at MTN service centers and M-Copper shops.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals, out-of-this-world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome back. You're still watching the weekly roundup edition of the Lunchtime News. We now take you to the world of business. Now, members of parliament scoffed off at some Ugandans criticizing President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni over his advice on adjusting lifestyles in the wake of rising commodity prices. The MPs describe as cheap politics, attempts by some opposition-leaning politicians to water down guidance by the head of state on increasing prices of bread.
These are some of the pictures that social media has been awash with since late last week. From funny shapes of Uganda's popular food crop, cassava, to people feasting on the same. This purportedly has been in response to a statement made by the head of state with regard to high prices of bread.
Because these other issues, there is war in Ukraine and Russia, there will be no bread. If there's no bread, eat muhogo. Muhogo is here. What is the problem? You know, Africans really really confuse themselves. You are crying that there is no wheat. I don't eat bread myself. If there's no bread, eat mogo. Mogo is here.
Some Ugandans did not agree with him on this.
I respect the opinion of the president, but I also request the country to think about it twice and know that the state has a responsibility to take care of its citizens.
However, other legislators have bought the idea of adjusting on lifestyles in the wake of increasing commodity prices.
Me, I am a cassava grower. I also eat yams. You see that? But you know, in face of scarcity, people don't want to hear that.
The best way to do is to know that whatever is happening in the country, we should also use the real spirit of being Ugandans. We work within the means.
How can we cut our coat according to our sizes? And what President said that if Ugandans see bread is expensive, they could go for an alternatives like cassava. He said it in good faith.
The MPs who agree with the president say cassava as opposed to bread is not only cheap, but also nutritious.
Bread with the African culture, of course, was about the remainings on the saucepan. That is bread. And if the president talked of leaving the bread, of course, this is a typical African who is telling you that why do you spend time eating the leftovers on the saucepan and instead of you going towards fresh food like cassava?
You can go for the cheaper thing, yet it is pregnant with the value, food value. So we have a lot of food, natural food, other than going for crisps, going for chips and the chicken.
In the meantime, government is on course to overcome rising commodity prices, as recently disclosed by the Prime Minister Robin Anabanja during Eid Day celebrations. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Now, despite continued economic disruptions brought by the COVID-19 pandemic and other international factors, government intends to retain most of this year's financial year's tax policies into the new financial year 2022-2023. The draft amendment bills, which propose changes to the Income Tax Act, the Value Added Tax, the Tax Procedure Code Act, among others, are currently before Parliament for debate and will be announced along with the budget reading for the new financial year in June 2022.
We don't want to have so many changes within our tax laws every year, because that also makes your tax laws quite uncertain.
Government will not be changing any tax policies this coming financial year.
We take note that a lot of businesses have suffered during the COVID-19, though also government coffers have been depleted because we haven't got a lot of revenues. We thought this wouldn't be the right time to add more taxes.
Instead, government has had to introduce tax amendments to enable clarification of some terms which were not clear before in a bid to ease tax administration.
Most of the things that are there are penalties for either not using or forging tax stamps, forging electronic receipts or not having them, and then not filing returns. So we have really upped up the penalties for non-compliance, because what we want to do is that we are going to generate a lot of our revenues from administrative effort of URA.
Some of these amendments include, under income tax, the redefinition of beneficial owner to mean a natural person who ultimately owns or controls a customer, or a natural person on whose behalf the transaction is conducted. The introduction of the definition of the legal person to include a natural person who either directly or indirectly has at least 10% shareholding or voting rights, and the inclusion of research institutions or organizations whose object is not for profit under exempt organizations, under rental income, deductible expenses and losses allowable to taxpayers earning rental income shall be capped to 50% of their rental income in that year of income. Repeal of the deduction of interest expense incurred on a mortgage from financial institutions and applied towards the acquisition or construction of premises from which the rental income was generated, and change in computation of rental tax for individuals on chargeable income to 12% on gross rental income, among others.
This year we see exemptions for hospitals those that are investing about $5 million US. And for us, we think, given the fact that we don't have any regulations in terms of how much hospitals can charge, we still feel this is something that needs to be thought deeper into. And maybe also the fact that we previously called on to government to change or make some changes, especially in terms of who benefits from tax incentives and exemptions.
In recognition of the need for more revenue collection, the government of Uganda prepared a domestic revenue mobilization strategy, a 5-year program that ends in January 2025 and is intended to strengthen Uganda's capacity to generate sufficient revenue to finance its expenditures.
The other one is to ensure that the goods that are coming in, especially imported goods, are not undervalued, because we are really looking at valuation. So now we have a system whereby we have indicative values of all items. When they come in, we shall say this shirt you're wearing costs $2 and the tax is so much, so there will not be so much dispute. We are employing scanners so that we will get to know what is in these containers without doing 100% physical verification.
Civil society points out that the first tax legislation Uganda had was in 1919, and that since then we have had tax laws that are not informed by a comprehensive tax policy.
It would have been very good to see that that framework is in place before the passing of this current budget, so that we know that we now have clear strategies to govern tax incentives, tax exemptions. But we see that there's still a criteria being provided within the Income Tax Act, VAT Act, Stamp Duty, and so on. But we feel it would be good to actually see that we're having a review of some of these incentives that have previously been given out. For instance, we see Bujagali Power Project getting an exemption, an extension of its exemption.
In spite of trying to widen the taxable base and implement efficient tax administration, URA was expected to collect 21.3 trillion shillings. But be as it may, this target is likely not to be met.
Pay for your dream phone, Mpola. Get your dream phone today for as low as 1,400 Uganda shillings with free data for a year and pay slowly. All phones come with daily 50 MBs for 12 months. Repayment period is 1 year. Available at MTN service centers and M-Copper shops.
Affordable packages, great entertainment,
sports, the local content, telenovela, the movies. There is something for everybody. Go TV, this is where great stories live.
Get the best entertainment for any budget. With GoTV, you will have great entertainment for as little as 13,000 Uganda shillings per month. GoTV, great stories, Zidiwano. GoTV Uganda, love it.
Welcome back. We now take you into the world of sports, specifically the rally, where Uganda's Jas Mangat has maintained lead at the 2022 Pearl of Africa rally that has climaxed day 2 in Lugazi. The rain hit the rally that started with cancellation of the competitive section 1 of Sheka Meta due to the heavy rains that lasted more than 7 hours. This, however, didn't dent the spirits of both the drivers and the fans, with the drivers trying their level best to impress while fans turned up in numbers. Ultimately, by close of day, Uganda's Just Mangas remains top of the rally that entered more than 40 entries, with the final day due on Sunday to have competitive sections. Uganda's National Rally Championship winner Ponciano Lwakataka is in the rally as are many other Ugandan crews.
Just Mangat here, we had a good day today. Very wet this morning. Luckily we didn't make any too big mistakes. And then in the afternoon it started getting drier, but we couldn't get into a rhythm and we couldn't maintain our pace. So we lost a lot of time.
That brings us to the end of our weekly news roundup edition. Thank you for being a lovely audience. My name is Wadulo Mark Arnold, and have yourselves a great Mother's Day.